Hi, guys, and welcome to another novel study with Miss D Reads. We are going to be reading the book The City of Ember by Jean Dupreux. That doesn't sound right whatsoever. I'm sure it's not right. I'm going to have to look it up after. So, we discussed the kind of genre we thought The City of Ember is, and what kind of And we looked at the cover. We did a bit of a cover study and looked at some predictions we had about what we thought was going to happen in the book based on the cover and the name. I think we came up with some really great predictions, and they all made a lot of sense. And I think I think you guys are really gonna like this one. So as we start the book, it does start with a map of the city of Ember. And you can take a quick look at exactly what is in the city of Ember. It has everything. A gathering hall, they have station, so obviously some kind of bus. Um, I think it has pretty much everything that you would expect in a city. The city of Ember. So that's your first page. It starts off with a map so you can kind of visualize what this city looks like as we are reading it. Let's just go right into it and start reading. The beginning of the book is called The Instructions. When the city of Ember was just built and had not yet inhabited, the chief builder and the assistant builder, both of them weary, sat down to speak about the future. They must not leave the city for at least 200 years, said the chief builder, or perhaps 220. Is that long enough? Asked his assistant. It should be. We can't know for sure. And when the time comes, said the assistant, how will they know what to do? We'll provide them with instructions, of course, the chief builder replied. But who will keep the instructions? Who can we trust to keep them safe and secret all that time? The mayor of the city will keep the instructions, said the chief builder. We'll put them in a box with a timed lock set to open on the proper date. And we will tell the mayor what's in the box? The assistant asked. No, just that it's information they will need and they must not see until the box opens of its own accord. So the first mayor of Ember was given the box, told to guard it carefully, and solemnly sworn to secrecy. When she grew old and her time as mayor was up, she explained the box to her successor, so the next person who became mayor, who also kept the secret carefully, as did the next mayor. Things went as planned for many years, but the seventh mayor of Ember was less honorable than the ones who'd come before him, and more desperate. He was ill. He had a coughing sickness that was common in the city then, and he thought the box might hold the secret that would save his life. He took it from its hiding place in the basement of the gathering hall and brought it home with him, where he attacked it with a hammer. But his strength was failing by then. All he managed to do was dent the lid a little. And before he could return the box to its official hiding place or tell his successor about it, he died. The box ended up at the back of the closet, shoved behind some old bags and bundles. There it sat, unnoticed, year after year, until its time had arrived, and the lock quietly clicked open. Chapter 1, Assignment Day. In the city of Ember, the sky was always dark. The only light came from great flood lamps mounted on the buildings and at the top of the poles in the middle of the larger squares. When the lights were on, they cast a yellowish glow over the streets. People walking by threw long shadows that shortened and then stretched out again. When the lights were off, as they were between 9 at night and 6 in the morning, the city was so dark that people believed that people might as well have been wearing blindfolds. Sometimes darkness fell in the middle of the day. The city of Ember was old, and everything in it, including its power lines, was in need of repair. So now and then, the lights would flicker and go out. These were terrible moments for the people of Ember as they came to a halt in the middle of the street or stood stock still in their houses, afraid to move in the utter blackness. They were reminded of something they preferred not to think about, that someday the lights of the city might go out and never come back on. But most of the time, life proceeded as it always had. Grown people did their work, and the younger people, until they reached the age of 12, went to school. On the last day of their final year, which was called assignment day, they were given jobs to do. Do you imagine? 12 is not that old. 12 is like grade 6 or 7. And that's it. The graduating students occupied room 8 of the Ember School. On assignment day of the year 241, this classroom, usually noisy first thing in the morning, was completely silent. All 24 students sat upright and still at the desks as they had grown too big for. They were waiting. No, let me try that one again. All 24 students sat upright and still at the desks they had grown too big for. They were waiting. The desks were arranged in 4 rows of 6, one behind the other. In the last row sat a slender girl named Lena Mayfleet. She was winding a strand. She was winding a strand of her long dark hair around her finger, winding and unwinding it again. Sometimes she plucked at the thread of her ragged cape or bent over to pull on her socks, which were loose and tended to slide down around her ankles. So annoying. One of her feet tapped on the floor softly. In the second row was a boy named Dune Harrow. He sat with his shoulders hunched, his eyes squeezed shut in concentration, and his hands clasped tightly together. His hair looked rumpled as if he hadn't combed it for a while. He had dark, thick eyebrows, which made him look serious at the best of times. And when he was anxious or angry, came together to form a straight line across his forehead. His brown corduroy jacket was so old that its ridges had flattened out. Both the girl and the boy were making urgent wishes. Dune's wish was very specific. He repeated it over and over again, his lips moving slightly as if he could make it come true by saying it 1,000 times. Lena was making her wish in her pictures rather than in words. In her mind's eye, she saw herself running through the streets of the city in a red jacket. She made this picture as bright and real as she could. Lena looked up and gazed around the schoolroom. She said a silent goodbye to everything that had been familiar for so long. Goodbye to the map of Ember. Goodbye to the map of the city of Ember in its scarred wooden frame, and the cabinet whose shelves held the book of numbers, the book of letters, the book of the city of Ember. Goodbye to the cabinet drawers labeled new paper and old paper. Goodbye to the 3 electric lights in the ceiling that seemed always, no matter where you sat, to cast a shadow over your head, the of your head over the page you were writing on. And goodbye to their teacher, Mrs. Thorne, who had finished her last day of school speech, wishing them luck in their lives that they were about to begin. Now, having run out of things to say, she was standing at her desk with her frayed shawl clasped around her shoulders. And still, the mayor, the guest of honor, had not arrived. Someone's foot scraped back and forth on the floor. Miss Thorne sighed. Then the door rattled open and the mayor walked in. He looked annoyed, as if they were the ones who were late. Welcome, Mayor Cole, said Miss Thorne. She held out her hand to him. The mayor made his mouth into a smile. Miss Thorne, he said, enfolding her hand. Greetings. Another year. The mayor was a vast, heavy man, so big in the middle that his arms looked small and dangling. In one hand, he held a little cloth bag. He lumbered to the front of the room and faced the students. His gray, drooping face appeared to be made of something stiffer than ordinary skin. It rarely moved except for the making the smile that was on it now. Young people of the highest class, the mayor began. He stopped and scanned the room for several minutes. His eyes seemed to look out from far back inside his head. He nodded slowly. Assignment day now, isn't it? Yes. First, we get our education. Then we serve our city. Again, his eyes moved back and forth along the rows of students. And again, he nodded, as if someone had confirmed what he said. He put the little bag on Mrs. Thorne's desk and rested his hand on it. What will that service be, eh? Maybe he's Canadian. Eh? Perhaps you're wondering. He did his smile again, his heavy cheeks folded like drapes. Lena's hands were cold. She wrapped her cape around her and pressed her hands between her knees. Please hurry, Mr. Mayor, she said silently. Please just let us choose and get it over with. Dune, in his mind, was saying the same thing, only he didn't say please. Something to remember, the mayor said, holding up one finger. Job you draw today is something for 3 years. Then, evaluation. Are you good at your job? Fine, you may keep it. Are you unsatisfactory? Is there a greater need elsewhere? You will be reassigned. It is extremely important, he said, jabbing his finger at the class, for all work of Ember to be done, to be properly done. Sorry. He picked up the bag and pulled open the drawstring. So, let us begin. Simple procedure. Come up one at a time, reach into this bag, take one slip of paper, read it out loud. He smiled and nodded. The flesh under his chin bulged in and out. Who cares to be first? No one moved. Lena stared down at the top of her desk. There was a long silence. Then Lizzie Biscoe, one of Lena's best friends, sprang to her feet. I would like to go first, she said in a breathless, high voice. Good. Walk forward. Lizzie went to stand before the mayor. Because of her orange hair, she looked like a bright spark next to him. Now choose. The mayor held out the bag with one hand and put his other behind his back, as if to show he would not interfere. Lizzie reached into the bag and withdrew a tightly folded square of paper. She unfolded it carefully. Lena couldn't see the look on Lizzie's face, but she could hear the disappointment in her voice as she read out loud, Supply Depot Clerk. Very good, said the mayor. A vital job. Lizzie trudged back to her desk. Lena smiled at her, but Lizzie made a sour face. Supply Depot Clerk wasn't a bad job, but it was a dull one. The Supply Depot clerk sat behind a long counter, took orders from the storekeepers of Ember, and sent the carriers down to bring up whatever was wanted from the vast network of storerooms beneath Ember Streets. The storerooms held supplies of every kind: canned food, clothes, furniture, blankets, light bulbs, medicine, pots and pans, reams of paper, soap, more light bulbs, everything the people of Ember could possibly need. The clerks sat at their ledger books all day, recording the orders that came in and the goods that went out. Lizzie didn't like to sit still. She would have been better suited to something else, Lena thought. Messenger, maybe. The job Lena wanted for herself. Messengers ran through the city all day, going everywhere, seeing everything.